Now, more of us than ever before are living in rented accommodation. That's almost 9 million people in all.
And Steph's looking today at whether there is enough protection, actually, for tenants. Morning.
Yes, morning to you both. It's an interesting one, renting, because more of us are doing it than ever before. But, of course, with that, you get more problems in terms of things like deposits, and we're going to be talking about that today. Morning, everyone. Yes, the high cost to buy a home and also our changing lifestyle means that more than 9 million people in the UK are now renting. For some, that's a frustration, and for others, it gives them a lot more freedom to live somewhere they couldn't afford to buy. But the cost of renting a home is rising. Average rents last year rose to over £700. That figure doesn't include London, where, of course, average rents are more than twice that amount. And on top of that, tenants face rising fees and high deposits, the average held being something like £1,000. Well, with me now is Eddie Hooker, who's the boss of one of the 3 government-approved deposit protection schemes. Good morning to you, Eddie.
Morning.
So just explain what the rules are around deposits when it comes to renting.
OK, well, very simply, when you pass, as a tenant, when you pass your deposit to either your landlord or your letting agent, that landlord or letting agent has to protect that deposit in one of the 3 authorised schemes in the UK. They've got 30 days to do that, the landlord has, and they must give you, the tenant, a certificate which explains where that deposit's protected, how it's protected, and basic information about that tenancy.
So you get proof that it's in one of these official schemes.
Yep.
Then it comes to the end of the term where you're leaving the house.
Yep.
And then what happens in terms of getting that deposit back?
Well, you need to ask for your deposit back from your landlord or your letting agent. If they don't give it back, or there's a dispute over how much they want to give back, then you need to contact one of the schemes, or the scheme where that deposit is protected, and then they take it on from there. And
the disputes is where a lot of issues come in. You know, we've talked this morning, and we've had lots of people saying, oh, you know, when I've rented, it's been hard to get my deposit back because of the vagueness of how clean the house has to be, and rules like that. What can you do to make sure you don't have that problem when you're trying to get your deposit back?
Well, I think the important thing is this is your home. So if as a tenant, you're living in a property, you need to treat it as as your own property. Make sure it's clean. Make sure that the garden is, if you have a garden, the garden is maintained. Make sure that all the items which were in that property when you moved in are there and in the same condition that they were.
But people have different views of maintenance, don't they, about how to maintain. So how can you make sure you have maintained it to the standard that's going to get you your money back?
Well, there's an agreement you have to sign at the beginning called the tenancy agreement, and that will give you, as a tenant, that will explain your obligations to what condition the property is to be returned in. There'll also be things like maybe an inventory or a check-in report, which you can check through. But most landlords are reasonable, and they expect there to be some form of wear and tear, and most deposits or amounts of deposits are only withheld by the letting agent or the landlord if the condition is worse than when the tenant moved in.
Yeah. OK, well, thank you very much for your time this morning, explaining all that to us.